working on a book at the moment about Islamic finance, which today is a $3 trillion industry worldwide. I got interested in Islamic finance in 2004, early 2004, when I was working as a management consultant for a international consulting firm. And I was working in Saudi Arabia. And our client at the time was a very large bank. And my job was to calculate, sort of estimate the profitability of all these accounts at the bank. So I had access to a lot of data on all these different bank accounts, but it was anonymized. So I had no idea who the account holders were. So there's one account that's just so much larger than all the other ones. And it had, I think it was like over $1 billion in it, but it was a savings account that was earning no interest at all. So I went to the people I was working with at the bank and I said, hey, listen, I'm sorry, I think there's a glitch in this data because somebody's just sitting there with over $1 billion parked and earning no interest. That must be a mistake. And they said, oh, no, that's the king's account, as in the king of Saudi Arabia. And so, this was my first exposure to the issue of interest in religion. Go back to the very beginnings of Islam. The Prophet Muhammad was a merchant. He came from a family of merchants. His wife was a very successful merchant. And so it's not surprising that, for example, some sacred texts and accounts of the life of the Prophet Muhammad in the hadith literature refer to appropriate ways of dealing with money and lending and investing. Let's say you want to buy a car, right? You go to a conventional bank, let's say the car costs $20,000. You go to a conventional bank and they'll say, here's a car loan for $20,000 and pay us back, $23,000 in a year. But what might happen would be more likely to happen in an Islamic bank is the Islamic bank might say, look, I can't lend you 20,000 and ask you to give me 23,000 back in a few years in a year, because that's interest. But what I can do is the bank can buy the car from the car dealership for 20,000, and then the bank can lease it to you for a year. And you'll make payments every month. And those payments will eventually total $23,000. Right? As I said, these are issues that people of all religious backgrounds or no religious background have grappled with for a long time. On the other hand, it is very interesting to me that there is something called Islamic finance in the world. There's a $3 trillion Islamic finance industry, but no $3 trillion Christian finance industry or Jewish finance industry or Hindu finance industry or Buddhist finance industry or whatever. So part of what I want to understand is that, why is that the case? I tend to enjoy my field work very much. I have friends whose field work is largely in very challenging conditions. You might be living in a house without plumbing for 6 months or something. I interview largely bankers, executives. So, I spend time in conference rooms and hotels, which is really not that bad. I love field work, but of course it's complicated. I mean, the biggest challenge is just figuring out what questions you're asking and what kind of information you're getting at, right? Because, the question itself evolves. So after the fact, you always think of things that you should have asked if you'd known that you were asking the question that you are actually asking now in the end, right? But, you sort that kind of thing out. It's just, honestly, a lot of it is practice. You just get better. I have been involved with a minor in Islamic Studies since its very beginning, and I've been serving as director of undergraduate studies for a long time. And it's been so gratifying to watch it grow and to see the wonderful students that we've had come through. And the truth is that students come to us for all kinds of reasons. Some students might be Muslim and they want to explore their own faith or dimensions of it from all kinds of new directions, to do with, historical aspects, contemporary aspects, philosophical aspects, literary aspects, theological aspects, poetry, musical aspects, right? We also have many, many students who are, had nothing to do with Islam. Had some who came to Hopkins hardly knowing the first thing about Islam, and yet somehow got interested. So I think the program and the minor is important because we bring all these things together, and we like to think that we're a place for open discussion and sort of, the opening up of minds in some really wonderful ways.